everyone, it's Amanda. Today I'm going to be doing my first recent reads of 2023, my mid-month wrap-up for January. I have 9 books to share with you today, and a lot of them are really good. So if you love romance books like me, be sure to like and subscribe down below for more bookish content. I'd love to have you here, but let's get into the books. So we first have my deep dive into Chloe Leese. I literally love her writing style. So the first book that I read was Two Wrongs Make a Right, which is her new release. It is so freaking good. So in this one we follow Bea and Jamie. Bea is on the spectrum. She's a little wild and crazy. She definitely is kind of awkward in social situations, and she has a previous relationship that she's kind of still recovering from, where he didn't really allow her to be her true self, and it was kind of a toxic relationship. So then we have Jamie. He is just an uptight, stick in the mud type guy. He's a Capricorn, so I loved that. It was so good. The way these two end up colliding is actually their friends and family had kind of set up this idea that they should be together because their personalities are so opposite that they thought that they would work. So Bea's sister had planned this elaborate meetup for them, and they figure it out. So Bea and Jamie figure out this plan that their friends have, and Bea's pissed off. She's like, I want revenge, okay? We're going to pretend to date and pretend that we're so in love that their friends had done this correctly, and then we're gonna break their hearts by breaking up. They actually do kind of dislike each other at first, but you slowly begin to see their connection, and it is so good. It's so steamy. It was a 5 out of 5 star. The scene where they're stuck in the closet together, I was dying. Like, I was like heating up. I was like, I need water. But I also really loved the quote, I don't see you differently, I see you better. I'm like, this is just so cute. It's like, it was cute and cheesy, but in the non-cheesiest way, in the best cheese way, you know? So that one was definitely a great way to start off the year. Then we go into the Bergman Brothers series. I really loved the first book, Only When It's Us. This one followed Willa and Ryder. Ryder is deaf, and Willa is a star soccer player, and he had recently become deaf from meningitis, so it was kind of a result of that, and he used to play soccer, so they definitely have common interests, but they definitely don't like each other when they first meet. She ends up coming to class, and she's always late because of soccer, so she really wants the class notes, but the teacher is being a hard ass and not letting her have them. So he says, like, why don't you get them from the guy next to you? And so she looks at him and she's like, where's my notes? But she basically just gives him a death glare, and since he can't hear her, he seems like an asshole. So they get off on the wrong foot, and they become like kind of these frenemies. I loved this sexy lumberjack vibe, and I just loved the banter between them. It was so funny. Then we move on to the second one, which is Always Only You, and this one's a hockey romance between Ren, which is Ryder's brother, and Frankie, who is the PR assistant for the hockey team. She's also on the spectrum, and she likes to play grump on the team. She likes to steer clear of social interactions by remaining super grumpy. So it's a Grumpy Sunshine reversed, where the girl is the grumpy one and Ren is just the sweetest cinnamon roll ever. It's very much guy falls first, and a lot of pining is happening because Ren is obsessed with Frankie and has been wanting her since forever. So it's really cute, and they end up having a forced proximity situation because she ends up kind of being his roommate for a little bit, and it is so good. Their chemistry is amazing, so I can't wait to get to the next one. I ended up rating this one 4 stars because I didn't like it as much as the first one. I feel like I really loved the banter between the first couple, and with this couple there's just a little bit less banter because Ren is already obsessed with her, so he kind of didn't have that enemies to lovers vibe that I love so much. So that's why this one got a 4 star, but it's still like really good. And if you love Hero Falls First, you'll love this one. Then I read a super spicy novella called Break the Glass by Jack Whitney. This is a paranormal romance, and it's just all smut. It's like 60 pages of pure smut. It's about this guy named Damon, and he is a demon hunter, and he's going to find Mary. So it's based on the Bloody Mary legend, and he wants to kill her. No demon hunter has done it before, and it takes a smut smutty turn. So it is a time to be had. It was good, you know, it gave what it was supposed to, and I rated it 4 stars. Next, I read the first book in the Voyeur series by Fiona Cole. It's called Voyeur, and it is a student-teacher romance. I really loved the writing style, so I want to start by saying that. But this one did end up being a 3-star read just because the conflict of the book I felt like was very repetitive. We had them, you know, I can't have you but I want you type thing. It was just a little bit too repetitive for me. It didn't have anything different. Every single time that they argued, it was like the same, and I just ended up being kind of annoyed by it instead of rooting for them. But the steam was hot. I love Fiona Cole's writing style. I'm hoping that I'll like one of her other ones more because student teacher is not my favorite thing ever. I feel like a lot of the time I have the same complaints about the conflicts. We follow Oakland. She's struggling with money, so she ends up taking a job at Voyeur, which is this elitist sex club where they pay a lot of money for services there, and she ends up making a ton of money here, so it totally works out. But what she doesn't know is that one of the guys that watches her is her teacher. He is going there because he has some past trauma and he finds it hard to be with women. So that's kind of the backstory with him. I found Oakland a little bit of an annoying character because she was constantly putting herself down, calling herself names because of the job that she works, and it just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Then I read Wicked Little Sins by A.R. Breck. This book was so freaking wild. I rated it 4 stars. We follow Vera and her mom. Vera's a super whiny teenager in the beginning of the book. She really doesn't want to move, but her mom has a new man and she's making her move away from all her friends and stuff. So they're moving to Castle Point, which is this really mysterious town that nobody really knows about. It's super dark and gloomy, very gothic vibes. And they move into this mansion with her mom's lover and Malik, who is our love interest. He is her step brother. And it is so freaking good. It's so juicy. Malik's like this guy that basically runs the school and runs the town. You don't mess with him and his friends type thing. He bullies Vera and makes her life miserable, and he vows to pretty much break her. It's just crazy. It gets wild. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, but there is some crazy stuff going on, like demons and paranormal activity and just spooky altogether. This would be a great read for October. It kept me on the edge of my seat towards the end because there's a lot of plot going on in this one, which I really love. And the smut scenes were chef's kiss. Then I moved on to an even more unhinged romance called Twisted Dares by A.R. Breck. And this one we follow Raven. She is the daughter of 2 serial killers that got caught. So she ends up living with her aunt and uncle, who are part of this cult that is the complete opposite of her parents, but still abusive, and they always are burning her with crosses and they're assaulting her, trying to figure out if she's sinning, and it's super crazy and dark. She is also an underground fighter, and that's kind of the gist of this book. It was very slow moving, which is why I rated it 3 stars. I liked it enough to pick up the next book in the series, but it was a little bit repetitive in the scenes. It's basically, she's in this fighting rink, she fights men, she has these urges, she goes back home, her aunt and uncle abuse her, throw her in a cage, more abuse happens, she goes to school, more abuse happens, then she has this relationship with Celian, who is the love interest, and he is part of this mafia. He kills people for a living basically, and he also goes to the fighting club that she goes to called the Inferno, and she wants to learn from him. She wants to learn like self-defense and also how to kill, so he ends up agreeing to teach her eventually, and they end up having this strong bond even though he's a psycho. It was hot. There's a lot of stabbing going on, there's smut, and there's also a stalker that they're trying to find out why he's targeting Raven. So there is quite a bit of plot towards the later half of the book, but I felt like the pacing was off by a lot. I felt like the last half of the book was really strong, whereas the first half we're just having these abuse scenes after abuse scenes. It was just a little bit wonky to me, but I am looking forward to seeing how it progresses. I did kind of skim through the beginning of the second book because I wanted to know what the hell happened after that cliffhanger, and I kind of know now, so now I'm intrigued. But yeah, this one got 3 stars. Then I read the classic literature book club pick, which was 3 Swedish Mountain Men by Lily Gold. This one I rated 3.5 to 4 stars. I really enjoyed myself while reading it. It was a fun, smutty time, but not much more than that. We follow Daisy. She is running away from her past because her ex-boyfriend was shitty and did something crazy, and now she has these rumors floating around about her, and she just wants to escape all of that. So she ends up going to Sweden to have an escape in a cabin and just paint and do her hobbies. But while she's going up there, there's a snowstorm and she ends up getting isolated with 3 men, and that is her Why Choose Romance. It is just so much fun. You have the one that's super angry, the cinnamon roll one that's kind of annoying, golden retriever type guy, and then we have the kind of angsty, broody, emotionally unavailable one. And the smut scenes were definitely hot. Next we have Sweet Dandelion by Michaela Smeltzer. This one is a huge 500-something page book that follows a girl who is a victim of a school shooting, and she ended up getting out with just a kind of leg problem where she can't run anymore. But her mom had died in the incident, and then all her friends as well, so she's really having a lot of post-traumatic stress from it. She moves to a new school, she lives with her brother, and she ends up having a therapist at school, and it is a therapist-student romance. So it kind of has the student-teacher vibe, and they end up forming this connection. It's kind of slow going. It has a kind of slow burn, and I ended up rating this one 4 stars. My complaint is that her best friend Ansel, I really loved him, and I would have loved if they ended up together. And how I picture that playing out is like she had fallen in love with this therapist, and then she realized that it wasn't gonna work out, it wasn't healthy for her, and maybe she moved on and found that Ansel had always been there for her and all this stuff, and they ended up falling in love. I would have loved that to be the case because it would be very believable to me. But this one is a taboo romance, so we have to let go of those thoughts. But her endgame was definitely the counselor, and he really does love her, and that's shown throughout the book. I just don't know if I love student teacher. I think I have this kind of ick with it, but that's interesting to me because then I'll read like a father's best friend romance and not have any ick at all. Anyways, going back to the book, the relationship between her brother and her was definitely a forefront relationship in this book, and I found it to be a little bit stretched. Like, I felt like they were very much a lovey-dovey brother-sister duo, and it was kind of like unbelievable to me. And then her friend group I really loved. Again, I really loved Ansel. I loved their relationship buildup. I did feel like they had more chemistry than the main couple, and I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it's just because if they would have gotten together, it would have been a friends to lovers, and that buildup of the relationship is there. He definitely was pining after her. He definitely wanted a relationship with her. It's not very smutty. It's not very dark either. I thought this would be darker and smuttier. So if you're going into this thing, it's going to be super dark or super spicy. It's kind of in the middle with both of those. So that's kind of my take on this one. And lastly, we have Mile High by Liz Tomford. This book is taking the community by storm right now. It is a flight attendant hockey player romance. It has plus size rep. We have diverse characters, and it is so much fun. It has the best banter in the beginning, and then they do end up falling for each other pretty fast. I would say it's like a medium burn, and the book is super thick. So my one complaint with this one is the length of the book. It got a little bit sloggy, but I did end up really loving Stevie. She is very relatable, and she also volunteers at this animal shelter for senior dogs that is so freaking cute. Z as a character, he is kind of insufferable in many ways. He had that playboy tendency in the beginning that's really irritating, and then you start to fall for him a little bit with his interactions with Stevie. But the thing that irritates me about him and his dynamic and the book as a whole is the repetitiveness of him not wanting to tarnish his reputation as bad boy. And I ended up not liking Z as much as the other characters because of it. He has some amazing friends, and the friend group that is in this book is so exciting because we know that we're gonna get more books with these characters. I loved his interactions with Ella, which is his best friend's daughter. He has a really solid backstory with his mother-son relationship that I found intriguing, And then we have Stevie, and her mom-daughter relationship is also kind of strained. Definitely needs some work. She is always commenting about her weight and just being rude without being rude type of thing. And Stevie doesn't know how to navigate that, but she's definitely growing into herself in this book, and you get to watch that happen. And overall, the story had a lot of elements to it while also being steamy, spicy, and cute at the same time. So I definitely recommend this one if you're wanting something to just sit down with for a couple days, because it is a chunky one. But those are all the books that I've read recently. Hopefully you found something to pick up. If you made it this far in the video, leave a strawberry emoji because my strawberry sweater is on today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!